Hey everybody, ronarray here, and I have tested farming Uber bosses this league quite a lot. And so far, the longer and the most annoying the fight is, the better profitability will be. So what if we will try to farm the longest, probably the most annoying boss in the entire game? I'm talking about Uber Shaper. With killing 4 separate bosses at the start, some of which could have stages, and running through the map sequence twice during the Shaper fight itself, he should be great, right? So I farmed 100 Uber Shapers, and in this video I will showcase a detailed breakdown of loot received and time spent, together with my thoughts and ratings. Use timestamps as usual to navigate between topics, and let me know in the comments if there's a mechanic or boss you want me to test next. Let's go figure out if Uber Shaper is worth the time. So the long story short, to enter the fight you will need 5 cosmic fragments, the same as with any other Uber boss. To fight 100 Uber Shapers, I bought 500 fragments. On average, per 1 divine, you can buy at least like 10 fragments. In total, I paid about 50 divines for 500 fragments too, so it's very cheap compared to other Ubers, and it should be much easier to profit. So what the boss can even drop? The most important part is fragments. So right now in Chaoses, every entrance costs about 70 Chaoses. But you will receive a guaranteed fragment drop that costs about 55. So even if nothing else will drop, you will lose only 15 Chaoses per each entrance, which is completely amazing for any boss farm, because it's very hard to lose currency. Boss will also drop a unique most of the time, so it should be a random option. It could be Echoes of Creation, it could be Tides of Time, or Entropic Devastation. You have about 46% for Echoes, 33% for Tides of Time, and 20% for Entropic Devastation. They cost from like 10 Chaoses up to 100, depends on the setup and role. There's also a chance to drop a Startforge as less like 0.5%, so usually I wouldn't expect it. And there's a 2.5% chance to drop a Sublime Vision. Sublime Vision is probably the main goal right now, because if you're going to sell it unidentified, it will cost about 78 divines, which is a huge profit. There's also a chance for Cosmic Reliquary Key and Orb of Dominance, but most of the times those things are not really dropping that often. So talking about the time that I spent to pretty much fight the boss, it's probably the longest boss in the current game. On average, with all changes of the inventory, picking items, checking items, it took me about 4 minutes per each run. My fastest run will probably 3 minutes, and I needed to use a Mage Blood to pretty much run much faster and to stack different flasks, pretty much for movement speed, onslaught, and phasing. So running phases been kind of fast for me in that regard. So in general, for 100 runs, I spent something between 6 and 7 hours, approximately. I think it's a little closer to 7 because of all the sorting with crazy amount of items. So let's see what kind of loot we received. I dropped about 33 Tides of Time Vanguard Balls, which is pretty much expected amount. About 7 of them been perfect, so utility flasks have 3 charges every 3 seconds. And those will cost about like 1 divine each, so 7 divines in the total. And the rest, there's about 4 of basic Tides of Times, with like utility flask gain 2 charges every 3 seconds. Those are not really that popular, and I'm going to receive about 30 Chaoses per each. And the rest, so there's about 22 Tides of Time with utility flask gain 1 charge or stuff like that, and most of them will be sold for only like 15 or 20 Chaoses. So the main reason why bad Tides of Time can cost something is pretty much because they're given 151 dust. So that's a pretty decent amount, and some people could just buy them for like 20 Chaoses approximately, just to pretty much feed them to disenchanting. So I dropped about 17 Entropic Devastation gloves. 2 of them been perfect, so 50% increased effect of impales, and pretty much 49. Both of them are going to cost 1 divines. And the rest, like 17 of them, cost about 90 Chaoses each. Because people are usually buying those for dust, so That's about 10 divines in total. If we will take one gloves, for example, and we will add them to disenchanting, they're going to give us 400k of dust. That's a very decent amount, and those gloves are a very popular option for disenchanting. So next step is pretty much Echoes of Creation. I dropped 46 of them, which is a very big number. Unfortunately, they're not really making it in just one stash tab. So 5 of them been kinda perfect, something like that, like 15% more damage and 16% life taken. And those could cost about 50 chaoses per each. And in total, I'm going to receive about 260 chaoses per them, 250. And the rest, like 41 of them, just going to cost 20 chaoses. Because those are not really popular. You can still use them for disenchantment, for example, but it's not the best pick. So in general, I expect the whole set of Echoes of Creation to be around 8 divines, which is not a bad number. The worst part here is pretty much that we will need a lot of time to sell them or disenchant them ourselves. So I also dropped a set of ambushers, about 4 ambushers in total. That base is pretty popular and should cost about 60 chaoses per each. So I think it should be about 3.5 divines per 4 bases like that, which is a nice addition. So next step is pretty much Fragments. Obviously, because Fragment is guaranteed, I dropped 100 Fragments. As you can see, I dropped a little more Fragments of Knowledge compared to Fragments of Shape, so I don't think there's like a big difference in price. Currently, for 100 of Fragments, I think we can expect about 39 divines, which is a very decent number. Just Fragments are almost paying for the whole Shaper runs. So I think it's a very good setup because we currently can save a lot of currency. It's very hard to lose currency if you're running Shaper because of the Fragments. I also dropped one Orb of Dominance, which is kinda surprising because chances very low. But here it is, and it costs about 2.5 divines and the price is very stable. So we will just add it to the list. Next, and probably the most important step, is Sublime Visions. So in the process, I dropped 2 prismatic jewels like Sublime Visions, and both of them identified because I'm going to sell them that way. So unidentified version of Sublime can currently cost like up to 75 divines, which is a very good number. For both of them, we can get 150 divines, and on average, with 2% drop chance, I pretty much need to drop 2 Sublime Visions. So I think Sublimes are making Shaper right now pretty profitable. And you can expect at least 2 per 100 runs on average. But keep in mind, it's still random, you can receive 0 or you can receive even more than 2. So it depends. However, since the price for Sublime is that high, I think it could be a very good farm right now, just because of the price to the Sublime. And the last part is pretty much a Starforge sword. Well, surprisingly, I dropped 1. So it's currently here and it costs about 10 divines. So something between 9 and 10. And I don't really think it's that important because the drop chance is very low and I would usually not really expect 1. So since Sublimes cost for 75, I think you can profit from them instead. Because sword right now is not that popular. However, if you receive 1, you can still sell it because there are some people who still play in the build and the sword is pretty rare. So I've been pretty much surprised that I dropped 1, and I think it's a positive surprise. But I wouldn't expect the drop again. So what happened in total? In total we received about 11 divines per belt, about 12 per gloves, about 8 per helmets, 150 because of our sublimes, 40 per fragments, 2.5 per Orb of Dominance, and about 10 per Startforge. So in general we received 234 divines. We also paid about 50 divines per entrances, so I think the profit is 184 divines, which is a very great amount to be honest. So 184 divines, even if we spent around 7 hours farming all of that. It's still about 26 divine per hour, which is a very good result. I would say that I get a little lucky with sublimes, but since Wikipedia tells us that the chance is like 2.5%, I think it's perfectly aligned with the chance. So it's a pretty much average result. So currently, if you can literally stomach the fight with Shaper, the fight itself could be very profitable and it's pretty hard to lose money. So at worst, you're not going to receive a lot of big drops and you're probably just going to make it even. However, if you're going to get some sublimes with the current prices, you can pretty much make a decent profit. So is the Shaper great or bait? Well, he kinda produced a lot of currency for me and it looks pretty decent. However, the fight is not really that good and it could be morally taxing to pretty much farm it. So I would place it closer to great and I will probably give it around 7 on the scale. That's pretty much should be just fair right now, mostly because it's very hard to just handle the fight. So that's been my 100 Uber Shaper farm test. Hope you enjoyed the content and well, you can try to farm it as well. Thank you very much for watching as usual and subscribe for more content. See you next time. ronarray out.